All right, let's get right into it. Today we're going to do a kind of archaeological dig, but not into the ground. We're digging deep into the human mind to uncover the ancient roots of our deepest feelings. I mean, where do things like joy and rage and sadness really come from? Let's find out.
So let me just start with a question for you. When you feel a flash of anger or, that warmth of real affection for someone, do you think of that as a purely human thing, something that comes from all your complex thoughts? Well, what if I told you that the raw ingredients for those feelings are way older than people are?
And that brings us to our first big idea, this notion that there's an animal living deep inside your mind.
Okay, let's try an analogy. Imagine your mind is a house. All your conscious thoughts, your logic, the words you're hearing right now, that's all happening on the main floors. It's the part you're aware of. But according to the incredible work of neuroscientist Jaak Panksepp, the raw, powerful, unfiltered feelings that really drive our lives, they're being generated way down in the basement, these ancient, deep parts of our brain that we actually share with every other mammal.
Now, this idea, it completely flips the script on what most of us are taught. We usually think of it as a top-down thing, right? Our thoughts create our feelings. You think about something sad and then you feel sad. But Panksepp's work, called affective neuroscience, it argues for a bottom-up reality. These raw, primal feelings erupt from the brain's basement first, and they provide the basic energy and motivation that our higher thoughts are then built on top of.
So what's actually in this ancient basement? Is it just a big chaotic soup of emotions? Turns out, no, not at all. Evolution has given us a really well-organized toolkit, specifically 7 primal emotional systems that are hardwired into our brains.
First up, you've got the seeking system. This is basically the engine of curiosity. It's that enthusiastic buzz you feel when you're exploring a new place or chasing a big goal at work. It's even that feeling when you're just scrolling on your phone looking for the next interesting thing. It's that feeling of leaning forward, that euphoric sense of anticipation that just keeps us exploring the world. Next is rage. And what happens when that seeking system gets blocked? Well, think about it. You're rushing to a really important meeting, your goal is right there, and suddenly you hit a dead stop in traffic. That surge of white-hot frustration that makes you want to just pound the steering wheel, yep, that's the rage system kicking in. It's a primal, energetic response to being held back from something you want. Then, of course, there's fear. This is the brain's original alarm system. It's that ancient circuit that floods your body with adrenaline when it senses a physical threat. It's what makes your heart hammer in your chest when a car swerves towards you, making you jump back onto the sidewalk before you've even had a chance to consciously think, "Whoa, I'm in danger."
Fourth on the list is the lust system. This is the primal engine for sexual excitement. Panksepp saw this as a totally distinct emotional circuit, separate from love or deep attachment. It has its own neurochemistry, and it was designed by evolution for one basic purpose, making sure the species continues. It's a fundamental drive operating from the very bottom of the mind.
And as a kind of counterbalance, we have the care system. This is where all those warm, nurturing feelings come from. Now, its most powerful expression is probably that overwhelming urge a parent feels to protect their child. But this system is also the foundation for tenderness and affection in our adult relationships. It's what creates the powerful bonds that help us survive and thrive together.
But what happens when those social bonds get broken? That's when the panic/grief system lights up. This is the source of that really intense psychic pain of loneliness and loss. The very same ancient system that makes a lost puppy whine for its mother is what causes our own feeling of deep heartache. That pain is a really powerful motivator. It's like the emotional glue that drives us to stick together to avoid that awful feeling.
And finally, there's the play system. This generates that pure, unadulterated joy of social fun, especially that kind of physical rough and tumble. You see it so clearly in puppies wrestling or kids laughing hysterically. This is how we learn social rules and boundaries in a really fun, low-stakes way. And hey, even as adults, that need for carefree fun is still there in sports, games, and just joking around with our friends.
So there they are, the whole toolkit: seeking, rage, fear, lust, care, panic/grief, and play. This isn't just some random list of feelings. This is a scientifically validated map of the ancient emotional territory inside every single one of us. Okay, but how do these incredibly old primal feelings actually work?
with our big, sophisticated human minds? Well, to get that, we need to understand that the brain is built in layers, kind of like an archaeological site itself.
It's really organized into 3 main levels. At the very bottom, the foundation, you have the primary process. That's the emotional basement we've been talking about with the raw feelings from those 7 systems. Built right on top of that is the secondary process. This is where the brain unconsciously learns and forms memories, linking those raw feelings to things out in the world. And only then, at the very top, do we get to the tertiary process, our conscious thoughts, our language, our ability to think about the future and reflect on the past.
And here is the part that is just so revolutionary. That giant thinking cap that we humans are so proud of, our neocortex, it doesn't come online with feelings pre-installed. It's basically a blank slate at birth. It has to learn how to operate by listening to the powerful, non-stop emotional signals coming up from that ancient foundation. In other words, our entire rational mind is built on an emotional bedrock.
Now, understanding this bottom-up design isn't just some interesting science fact. It has huge, real-world implications for understanding our own mental health, our own suffering.
And this quote from Panksepp just gets right to the heart of it. Instead of just slapping a label like depression on someone, his work forces us to ask a much deeper, more fundamental question. What is the raw feeling at the center of it all? Why does it actually physically hurt?
And this framework gives us a stunningly clear answer. The agonizing pain of depression isn't some abstract thought problem. It's the raw, visceral pain that gets generated when that ancient panic/grief system goes into overdrive. It is literally the same emotional circuit that makes a small child feel the terror of abandonment, just amplified and stuck on a loop. This shows how our most complex human struggles can be traced directly back to these ancient primal systems.
So this brings us to the final stop on our tour, and maybe the most profound implication of this whole way of thinking, the very source of consciousness itself.
Panksepp argued that the foundation of all consciousness is something he called the core self. Now, this isn't your personality or your memories or your life story. It's something much more basic. It is the raw, felt experience of being an alive, feeling creature. It's the neurological bedrock that allows you to feel anything at all, and it is generated deep in those ancient parts of the brain.
And this leads to a conclusion that is just mind-expanding. This primary, basic form of consciousness, the simple, raw experience of feeling your own emotions, it's not a human invention. The overwhelming neuroscientific evidence suggests that this core self, this fundamental, feeling-based consciousness, is our shared inheritance. It's something we have in common with every dog, every cat, every rat, every mammal on this planet.
So I'll just leave you with this to chew on. If that most fundamental experience of being alive, the ability to feel joy and fear and sadness, is not ours alone, what does that change? What does that mean for how we see ourselves, how we treat other animals, and how we understand our own place in the incredible tapestry of life?